Skabooski.
Hey, Skabooski! Guys, I am excited because it is the second episode of the official visit with the man, the curator of the juice, the scoop gourd, Zach Blostein. Zach, how you doing? I'm also here with our guy Adam Brown because if you need any technical or any knowledge of any real value, I'm just a worthless host. So we brought Adam on because we're going to go full on 2020 foe in your face. Zach, Adam, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Excited to be with you boys. Let's break some stuff down.
That's pretty good, dude.
Money, baby.
That's good for you, Zach. That was a lot of energy for you at this time of night, my man. That was I know you are amped. Adam, how are you feeling, man? 2024, it feels like there's a little different feeling in the air right now. Don't you think so?
It is recruiting season, and I am here for all of it. I said on the message board earlier, I'm trying to weasel my way into the official visit show because I am a recruit junkie, and I love all the information.
Well, come on and wriggle yourself in, you lovable ringworm, because the official visit is for everybody. As you guys know, this is finally Zach's stage. He gets to show off all of his recruiting knowledge. This is the official visit featuring Rowland and Zach Blostein. We're going to go through all the recruiting heavy news that you guys need to know. And recruiting, boys, she never sleeps because we had all those names, 2023s, the Hakeem Williams, the Blake Nicholsons, all that, all those names, those guys are signed. We don't care about them anymore from the recruiting side. Obviously, we care about them from a development side, but we've got the 2024 cycle, and there's a whole host of names that you need to know right now because we're going to be talking about them for the entire year. It always gets confusing around this time of year, Zach. It's almost like the whole crop goes in and we got a whole nother group of kids to talk about. So you thought it would be a good idea to have a primer for the people. Talk about who's already in Tribe 24, potential targets, names that fans really need to keep an eye on over the next 12 months, right?
Yeah, definitely want to break things down because it can be a little overwhelming. Just kind of, obviously the end of the 2023 cycle, you're only focused on a few names. And then the 2024 cycle comes around and you got hundreds of names you got to care about. So definitely want to break things down for you guys, for all the FSU fans that are super into recruiting, maybe, just some casual recruiting listeners. Maybe you'll become recruit junkies like Adam over here. But yeah, definitely want to break this down for you guys because I think it's important as we head into this 2024 class for FSU.
I agree. Whether you're a galaxy-brained recruitnik like Adam, whether you're a small, smooth-brained casual like myself, the official visit is for everybody. We want you to come join us with all the knowledge. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the potential of this 2024 class, Zach, because we were talking about last year, Florida State coming off a 5-7 season, and it almost seemed like the ceiling of the 23 class had been written before we even really got into the meat of it. Like Florida State was out of it for a bunch of kids or they were long shots. Is it that same way with 2024 or has the success on the field that we saw a little bit materialize in 2023 high school recruiting materialize a lot in the transfer portal? Is that going to carry itself over into this potential 2024 high school recruiting class?
It's 100% going to. We've already kind of seen the results of that so far with the junior days that have happened within the month of January for Florida State. They've hosted a good crop of 2024 and beyond prospects on their campus over the past 2 weekends. And we'll get into it in a little bit, but Dane and I were down in Miami for the Battle Miami tournament. It's a 7-on-7 tournament they hold every year down there. I was actually in Fort Lauderdale. I don't know why they call it Battle Miami, but we were down there. And I mean, we talked to probably a total of 40 guys that are going to end up at Power 5 schools. There were probably even more there that, weren't in the FSU circles from guys all across the country. But yeah, FSU, I mean, we kind of like when we go into interviews, I kind of tell Dane to do this as he's getting into this industry, right? Like I don't tell the kids that I work for Noles 24/7 and I cover an FSU site. I want to gauge their true interest of where they're considering. So I start off on basically like, what schools are you interested in? What schools are you contacting the most? And try to gauge whether, Florida State is among those schools to see if I need to continue with the interview or just maybe fizzle it out because it's not worth it, right? But I mean, over the past few years, I attend these 7-on-7 tournaments, and honestly, they haven't been that fruitful for actual content FSU-wise. Obviously, there's been a ton of talent at these tournaments, but this one specifically, man, like FSU is being brought up way more often than in years past, just from my personal experience. So I think you're seeing the result of the 2022 season, that offseason hype starting to build for Florida State in 2023, start to help FSU on the recruiting trail in 2024.
Zach, recruiting's layered. A lot of people have it in tiers right now. You have like the upper crust tier. You've got the Bamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, things of that nature. Then you start to go down a tier, and you're looking like LSU's, like Clemson's, maybe like USC's, the South Carolina one, not our farm system. Can you gauge kind of like where a team is at this early stage based on how much they're being mentioned in some events like this? And to your knowledge, like, where does it kind of feel like Florida State's living in the recruiting world tier wise?
Yeah. So if I had to go off of, I think I'm going to use the transfer class as the first example, right? I think FSU in the transfer portal was recruiting as a tier 1 to tier 2 team.
Top tier. Yep.
Yeah. They, I mean, you mentioned those top tier schools, right? They were beating out LSU and USC and Notre Dame and a bunch of those schools that you consider maybe in that, right behind the playoff contenders.
Ohio State for Jeremiah Byers, even them.
Yeah. Oregon, I would consider one of those schools, right? Like, so Florida State was competing with those. And early in 2024, it appears like Florida State is in some of those battles. I would not consider them, among the Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State battles as of right now, right? That can change as we move into the cycle. But you looked at those, elite of the elite guys, top 10, 15 prospects in the country, not a ton are mentioning FSU. But you move past that, 25 to 100 and beyond that, you're starting to see FSU pop up in some of those recruitments. And I can't say the same for what occurred in 2023, aside from maybe obviously Hakeem Williams, which was a unique case and a great recruitment for Florida State. But yeah, definitely seeing Florida State kind of move up the tier list of schools in the early portions of this cycle.
Adam, what do you think, man? You were here. Obviously, Zach was seeing a lot of good development from the Battle Miami, and I'm sure from many of those 7-7 on events coming down the pipe. What did you see from those two junior days? Were you impressed with the amount of talent? Were you impressed with the names? Were you impressed with kind of it seems like pretty much all positive feedback that we were getting? What's been your take on the recruiting so far, big man?
Yeah, I text Brendan immediately after, I think it was after Saturday this past weekend, and I was like, dude, it looks different. Like, these guys look different. And obviously it's from afar. I'm sitting here in Delaware, like
very far.
I'm not down there seeing the dudes in person, but like they obviously, the boys at Knowles 24/7 take a ton of great pictures. They get great interview content that goes up on YouTube with these guys. So you get a chance you get a decent idea what these guys look like. And then you turn their huddle film on and take a look at it, or at least I do, to try to get an idea what kind of ball player they are. They look different. Like, these guys look like grown-ass men, like to a degree, and that's not what we've come accustomed to or grown accustomed to seeing from kind of early junior days over the past few seasons. So they're finally recruiting the type of clay that they need to mold these guys into big-time players to keep growing the program to where it wants to go.
I like that. The clay. That's good metaphorical stuff there, big guy. You know what I like to see, too, other than just the talent and the size? The geography. Mm-hmm. The heavy emphasis on Florida and Georgia, to whereas you see early on, like last cycle, Florida State's already kind of stretched itself a little thin, going into Mississippi, going into like Virginia's, things like that, which, of course, Florida State can pull from selectively. But obviously, you want to recruit the backyard as best you can. Mike Norvell knows that. I mean, he just hired Pat Surtain, right? Miami Dolphins legend. Fins up, boys.
Boy.
So let's talk about it. We got to talk about 2024, and Florida State's already off to an impressive start. Number 4 class in the entire nation. Lots of very, very, very high level talent. It's an interesting class. It's I can't wait to see how what they add to it, what they subtract, things like that. I guess just from a pure number standpoint, Zach, do you know about like the size of the high schoolers in this class they're looking to take?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at kind of the trend of what college football has become, with a lot of these schools trying to take maybe close to double digit transfers every cycle. I mean, Florida State, if you look at what they've done in the past 3 years. They're trying to supplant their roster with transfer additions, quality transfer additions, and I wouldn't expect that to change after this upcoming season. So I think a number to look at, maybe 20 as a max, and that's kind of interesting, right? Because Florida State's already at 8 commitments in January, and obviously signing day would be a little under a year from right now. So yeah, it's interesting, right? Like they're not going to add that many more prospects. I think they're going to add, they're definitely going to double what they currently have, and probably add a few more than that. But I wouldn't expect them to go for a 25 player high school class like we've seen, maybe in Mike Norvell's first couple of years here, and then obviously before that when the transfer portal wasn't even in full effect.
You cool with that strategy, Adam?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, like, what's the role of the transfer portal going forward. Is it going to continue to be a thing for Florida State? I mean, I think it has to be. They've been so good at it. Like, you can't walk away from something that realistically you've been elite at. Like, if there's anything the program can hang their hat on over the last couple of years, it's being legit good at recruiting the portal. And I know we're getting a lot of data. We're finding out what positions they're going to be in, what positions aren't, what kind of money it's going to cost to play ball in the portal. You've been so good at it. You can't walk away from it. So I think taking 18, 20 high-end level guys or developmental prospects that you really value, and then trying to top it off with 5-6 portal guys every year, I think it makes sense.
Zach?
Yeah, I completely agree with AB. I think Florida State has been the absolute experiment baby with the portal, right? Like I think they are the ones that have tried it, have been the ones to kind of bet on it, and it's paid off a ton, right? I mean, they wouldn't be 10-3 last season without utilizing and taking advantage of the portal. And I think Brendan kind of wrote an article about this a few weeks ago. FSU's found a ton of hidden value utilizing the portal, right? A lot of schools were kind of hesitant to bank so heavy on taking a ton of guys out of the portal and flipping their roster that way, as opposed to the old method of just recruiting high school prospects and kind of building up your roster over time. Florida State wanted immediate fixes, and they got it. And I don't think that's going to change that dramatically, right? I don't think they're going to be getting over double-digit guys every cycle.
No.
Kind of around 5, 6, 7 guys that can help supplant some of your maybe depth spots or positions that you want to just have more a higher ceiling at. I think you see Florida State continue to do that moving forward.
I agree. I would have called Florida State the test case for the portal. You called them the experiment baby. I'm taking that from now on. Test case is eliminated from my vocabulary. Florida State, the experiment baby darlings of the transfer portal. Let's talk about this class. That was great, dude. We'll start from top to bottom. Just who they have. Like I said, I think it's number 4 nationally right now. 8 commits, 5 from Florida, 3 from Georgia. Just like I said, geographically looking tight there. One of them's a kicker too, by the way, with the number 4 class. Apparently number 1 kicker in the whole world. Shout out Jake Weinberg, my guy from Delray. Weinberg. All right, moving on up. Cameron Davis, 5-star running back, the number 2 running back in the entire country. Legitimately terrifying physically as a 17-year-old. Could really beat the crap out of my 34-year-old ass. That kid, his highlights are fun. He is explosive. He has got what it takes to be the next great running back at FSU. Dual sports star. Great at baseball. Both programs are doing a phenomenal job recruiting him up to this point. Yeah, if you look at that offer list, they all want him, man. Alabama, Georgia. This kid is Colorado. God, I'm not going to talk about that. They all want him because this kid is a legitimate can't-miss prospect. Zach, Cameron Davis, he committed to Florida State back in 2021 when we were going through all of our issues, and his commitment has remained strong. Is this one that you expect Florida State to hold on to until the end with those types of suitors coming after him?
As of right now, I have no reason to worry about him not ending up in Florida State's class. He's just so talented, man. Like, he reminds me a lot of maybe the athletic profile of a Cam Akers, right? A quarterback for his high school team. He, on the ground, he ran 144 times this past season for 1,115 yards and 13 touchdowns. But he's quite the gunslinger as well, right? He completed just under 60% of his passes for 2,736 yards and 20 touchdowns through the air. Helped his team or lead his team to a 9-3 record and had a huge impact on their success. So he's awesome. Like you said, dual sport guy. He plays baseball and I think is being recruited. We can maybe ask Brett Nevitt a little bit more on that in the future, but I think he's being recruited to play baseball at Florida State as well. I mean, if you guys saw the photo shoots from Junior Day this past weekend, they got him to take photos in the FSU baseball jersey. So that was a pretty cool touch. And they did the same for a guy we'll talk about in a little bit in Camden Fryer. But yeah, a guy that FSU absolutely needs to sign. No worries for me yet. The one thing is that Cam has been open and honest and that he's going to keep his recruitment open to other coaches contacting him. And he might take some visits. So don't be alarmed if he does, but that's his plan. And he basically has outlined that, the only reason he's doing that is if, there's massive coaching change in Tallahassee, he has some backup relationships to fall back on in case he needs to find another spot.
I like that too. And if that situation does change, Knowles 24/7 will be the first and the most accurate to let you know. No sugarcoating here. For all you guys listening on audio, we love you. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. For all the people that are watching with us live on YouTube, as I think you should too, audio people, because those Cam Davis highlights were pretty sweet in the background, and those were only his freshmen. I saw those 2020 highlights. Yeah, it's unreal, man. Adam, what do you think of his game? Just a real quick synopsis. What stands out about him?
He's a stud. There's not a lot to say. I mean, he's compact. He's physical. He stays within his framework. The kid's got speed. I mean, what am I going to say? The film tells it all with that dude. He's a monster. You got to hold on to him. Can't lose that kid.
Yeah.
It's funny. The kids that are really good, it's like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to say. The kid's amazing. And the kids that are terrible, it's like, yeah, he's pretty terrible. Like they kind of put us analysts out of work when they're either that good or that bad. Cam's one of those guys, man. He's a dude. Florida State needs him. Speaking of another dude, Jordan Pride from Blostein, the safety, high 4-star prospect. Zach, there was a little bit of trepidation about this kid at the beginning of the year as far as like some of his other in-state suitors. Looks like Florida State's kind of calmed that down and relocked him in at this very admittedly early stage of the 2024 cycle.
Yeah. So far, so good. In the new year, I guess you could say. He did visit Tennessee, not this past weekend, but the weekend before when things opened up. So he hasn't completely shut the door on other schools. FSU is expected to host him this upcoming weekend for their final junior day of January. But yeah, Jordan Pride's a really talented prospect. He's actually, if you look at just the top 247 rankings, not the composite, he's the highest ranked guy in FSU's 2024 class. I think Cam Davis is ranked a little bit actually behind him within those rankings. So really talented prospect. He was actually at IMG last season before moving back over to Blostein. And now he's over there back in his hometown. And he's been balling out. So definitely a guy that FSU needs to keep in the fold. And I think this weekend could go a long way in helping FSU do that because he has not met the new DB coach, Pat Surtain, yet. That's going to be a large priority, obviously, this upcoming weekend when he's expected to make it to campus. The guy who recruited him to FSU, Marcus Woodson, is obviously no longer on staff now at Arkansas. So it's going to be important for him to build a strong bond with his potential new DB coach and Pat Surtain. That'll start really in person this upcoming weekend.
Adam, Camden Fryer, 4-star wide receiver, legacy, one of those type of guys. You know what I'm talking about? The slotty gym rat dudes that have made Florida State fans pull out tufts of their own hair. Surprise, bitches. We got one of our own now. Finally. And I am excited. What do you like about his game? It really is nice. If we can get like I said, a Samoan defensive tackle, then my list is complete. Where that's the one that Florida State hasn't gotten yet that I want really bad. But go ahead. Our slot destroyer, Camden Fryer.
Brendan was telling me about his, and I'm trying to pull it up right now. Brendan was telling me about his junior film. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, could this be an OV first? The big man puts his eyes on Cam.
It might be if I can get it here.
Well, as you're fumbling around with the computer like
yeah.
a caveman, what do you like about his game just from a auditory standpoint? Talk about it a little bit.
I mean, he's a fast, twitched up. Well, he's a fast twitched up dude. Like, I think that people will get caught up in the slot, classic
I did.
white slot comps. He's not that. That's not what he is. He is a here we go. All right, baby, here we go. Nope, that's not it. Stop.
Zach, what about you? What do you like about his game? Adam's kind of taking me to school here a little bit. He's not just one of those like converted lacrosse guys. Like this is his ranking would obviously indicate that he's an extremely talented, very athletic dude, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have his verified 40 time at 4.59, which is pretty impressive for a high school prospect. So definitely a guy with legit speed. And that was as of I believe, last January, so a year ago. He's probably gotten even a little bit faster than that. But yeah, he's a guy that FSU absolutely values. They wanted to get in the class early, even though he is, a legacy. Obviously, there's going to be some tie there with both his dad and uncle playing at FSU, Matt and Todd Fryer. They both played at FSU in the 90s. I'm sure all of you guys, or most of you guys, are aware. But yeah, I mean, he's a really talented prospect. I mean, maybe you can get into the film, but he holds offers from Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. So not just a guy that FSU values, a guy that is clearly valued by some of the
that ain't Danny Amendola running around out there, boys.
that's impressive athleticism, right, Adam?
He tracks the ball like an outfielder. He's got legit speed to get vertical. He is on the shorter side. Like he's not 6'5", 6'4", Johnny Wilson type, but he's a guy that's going to press you vertical. He's not going to be a guy that just lines up in the slot and runs stick routes all day and tries to get open that way. Like you're going to use him as a vertical player. He kind of reminds me of Pokey Wilson almost to an extent. Like his ability to get deep on post, get down the field vertically, get on top of DBs and run by them. Like some of that kind of can make you miss a little bit, but I mean, this boy's game is speed.
That was a block in the back.
He runs and he runs fast.
Dak, it looked fine. It was all his speed there. I'm with you, man. Impressive stuff, good agility, and then anytime Mike Norvell sees that type of like completion percentage and that type of stress on the defense on vertical routes, he loves it. And he's a legacy. Shout out to the Fryer fam. Good gene pool there, my friends. Let's talk about somebody else that has really made Mike Norvell look like a genius. The Luke Kromenhoek take. We offered and took this kid, I believe, before he had even taken a starting snap in high school football. And what has this kid done? Made Mike Norvell look like a genius from an evaluation standpoint because the 4-star prospect is blowing up and the upside is there. I'm excited about him. I think if we get him in, which all indications are, and he wants to be the bell cow, and he's been on campus a whole bunch of times, and he's connected with Fryer and all the other guys from Georgia. When this guy gets on campus, I believe that at least from what I've seen right now, he's going to be the guy. Like he's not one of the quarterback takes where it's like, okay, well, it might be his turn in a couple years, depending on what the battle is. I think Luke's the guy. When it's his time, Luke's the guy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Zach?
He's absolutely blown up on the recruiting trail, right? Both offer-wise and ranking. He moved from not in the top 247 according to 24/7 Sports to the number 95 overall player in the country and the number 9 quarterback in the land. So definitely a dude that's stock up within the recruiting industry. And then obviously, with the stuff that actually matters when it comes to recruitment is the offers, right? And he's gotten Oklahoma, Penn State, UF, Ole Miss, Tennessee, UCF, and a few others within the past few months. He's a guy that's just blown up, and a lot of schools, obviously, some schools might be hesitant to even offer him. They might be communicating with him, but he's a guy that's obviously committed to a school already, and by all accounts is really locked in. So some schools might be even hesitant to even recruit him, but he's a guy that absolutely the upside is there. This past season, like Trey mentioned, was his first year as a starting quarterback at the high school level. He was behind Holden Garner, who is now at Auburn, this past season, made his way over there, and before that, Luke was playing like safety, a few other
wide
positions.
receiver.
Wide receiver for Benedictine. So just an absolute all around great athlete. Also plays basketball. So he's a two-sport guy, which is something, obviously evaluators like a lot. That usually projects well to guys being, great on the next level, then even beyond that. So, plus size at 6'4", 185 pounds, got room to grow a little bit, put on some more weight. But yeah, guy that FSU evaluated early, got him in for a camp, offered him, and then got an early commitment. And like you said, Trey, Mike Norvell looks like a genius for getting him in the boat early.
I love it. Scaring off other schools with how Knoll-blooded he is. We like that. Unconquered. Shout out Odell. Anytime, man. I love that. Adam, what do you like about his game? Is it the arm strength, accuracy, total package kid? What do you think?
Yeah, he's a total package kid. He's athletic. He can run. He's got a big time arm, pushes the ball down the field. You just watched it in Camden Fryer. His ability to run down the field and catch it. What Luke does best is throw it down the field and catch it. There's going to be some learning, I think, to his game, as he hasn't had a lot of reps as a starting quarterback, but he works really hard at his craft. I'm really a big fan as a person with no hair. My greatest takeaway from his junior day interview on Knowles 24/7, he's really trying to prioritize having his hair grown out when he comes in over the summertime. Thought that was really awesome of him.
Yeah, it's a great sign of character. Absolutely.
Also, all great men have great hair, so clearly he's going to be a stud. Look at me, I'm bald. So anyway, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a guy. There's a lot of development and a lot of ceiling still in front of him. I think he's coached pretty well at the high school level. He's coached pretty well off the field. He works with Denny Thompson.
Yeah, Denny Thompson, yeah.
He works with Denny Thompson in North Florida, and now where Denny works out with a lot of guys.
No area.
Yeah, so he works with Denny Thompson, who's known to do pretty well with quarterbacks. So I think Luke's going to come in prepared. I agree with Trey. He's going to be the man day one when he gets there. I'm not saying he's going to come and start right away, but I think it's his job in front of him.
Yeah.
There's a lot to like here. And it's incredible to me that you've had him committed for a year, right?
Almost, yeah.
For a year. Like, a lot of schools are battling it out for their quarterbacks right now. You're not worrying about that. You're able to go focus a lot of your efforts elsewhere because you've got your guy on campus already, locked in, or not on campus, but locked into your class already, doing the dirty work recruiting for you.
You've got your bell cow, and now you're trying to surround him with wide receivers, running backs talent. And speaking of bell cow, 4-star safety CJ Hurd is literally, from his post-game reaction quotes, I think he's one of the more liked recruits that I can remember in recent memory. The kid is talented, but Zach, CJ Hurd locked in with the Knowles and a very talented prospect in his own right, correct?
Yeah. I think the quote of the season was it was the Miami game. We reach out to prospects after the game for their recruit reactions, and CJ basically said that good teams beat the out of bad teams. And yeah, that one was definitely a winning quote. People loved it, and he just kept going the whole season, giving awesome commentary after games. So I know FSU fans appreciated it. But man, he's been active for FSU, recruiting at his school, which is an extremely loaded powerhouse over there in Atlanta, Georgia, Woodward Academy. There's multiple guys in both the 2024 class and beyond that FSU's interested in. Miles Graham is the one that comes to mind. He's a linebacker prospect that's committed to UF, actually, one of the top linebackers in the country. And Hurd's definitely in his ear. I think, after the UF win, he was even tweeting about, Miles making the flip to Florida State. So a guy that, FSU is communicating with and CJ's helping out recruit. But yeah, he's been awesome in that respect. And he just actually met Pat Surtain over the weekend, watched the playoff game with him. I think it was the Jaguars game at the time. Kind of was just, breaking down, what was going on in the game. That was a pretty cool experience. He said, if you go on the Knowles 24/7 YouTube channel, you can watch that post-visit interview with CJ. He's a really awesome dude to talk to. One of the more well-spoken guys that you can talk to in this class. AB, I wanted to ask a question. I know a lot of people have kind of Wondered, where do you think CJ plays? What position does he play at the next level?
Man, I'm sitting there watching that, wondering the same thing myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to say he's going to grow into a linebacker. He's 6 foot 200. I don't know. It's tough to say. Is he a weak side safety, a boundary kind of safety, strong safety type? That's probably where you start him at. Maybe. So with just a little behind the scenes here, just recorded a show with Brendan and Kevin that's going to drop later this week, talking about 5 prospects to know. And I talked a lot about the nickel position on that show. I mean, I think this is a guy you might see play a little bit of nickel corner for them. And I know people are going to be like, oh, cornerback, you have all these coverage responsibilities. But in some of the zone stuff that they want to be able to do, I think it makes some sense. It's a physical presence. You can roll him up into the box, kind of like Jamie Robinson. They were able to do with him and Shaheem Brown some. I think getting him closer to the line of scrimmage makes a lot of sense, but we're going to see. I'm curious. I would like to know verified times for him, what he runs. He looks like a 4.7 kind of young man. So I don't know. I don't know if his future is at safety truly, but they do kind of that hybrid safety deal like they do with Shaheem Brown. They want to be able to do some stuff there. So we'll see. Right now, I would say probably either the stud linebacker nickel role or that buck linebacker or buck safety. Sorry.
I'm not really worried about either of those with the way the kid plays the run. Like definitely good instinctual, like fires off the ball quick, sure tackler. They're good. That's the type of kid that you're going to find a spot for in the defensive backfield, especially with the mentality that he has.
That's why his offer list is kind of weird though, right? Like a lot of teams aren't sure what to do with him.
Yeah, I asked a college coach kind of early on before he'd even committed to Florida State, kind of where they thought or what they thought of him, and that was the first thing that came up. Just kind of what position do we recruit him at? So yeah, I think CJ is a guy that obviously is really talented. You look at the film, he has a lot of great attributes to his game. But that's going to be the one thing that we kind of look at over the next year or so, and obviously beyond once he officially arrives on campus. Like where does he kind of stack up in the FSU defense?
I don't know. Yeah, man, that's a fun film to watch, though, dude. He's hitting everybody. Yeah,
he's super productive.
Yeah, that's not a problem to have, figuring out a spot to put a talented kid, right? We'll find a spot.
Not to carry that conversation on any longer than it needs to go on, but you want football players. You'll find a spot for them, even if it's special teams in some of your sub packages. Like you're going to find a spot for a kid like that.
Yeah, totally agree. Rounding out the class, because we already talked about the kicker, Jake Weinberg. You got Keyshawn Mashburn, Jamori Flagg. 2 right now looks like kind of mid-level, like 3-star defensive line prospects from Florida. I feel like these guys, I don't know if they're under the radar. I don't know if a lot's been spoken about them a lot. Zach, what's the story with both these guys? Do we expect them both in the class? Are they both underrated right now? I just feel like they're kind of flying under the radar. Not 100% sure why, other than it is still January in the 24 class.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, yeah, I think both are a little bit similar. Obviously Jamori is a little. If you look at the weight, he's not as obviously filled out as Keyshawn Mashburn. No. Keyshawn's a local prospect over at Monroe. He's been at Florida State forever. Has visited a ton of times, and I think it was in last July. Yeah, so last July he made his commitment to Florida State. It wasn't one that was super expected, but we asked, and he was a take. So he's a guy that they were recruiting. But yeah, he's a defensive tackle that Odell recruited. Not too much to add there. I think Jamori Flagg is one that intrigues me a little bit because he's a guy that has been pretty productive at the high school level. Obviously looks a little bit undersized right now. I think he's listed at 6'3", 235, but he's a guy that maybe could grow into a defensive tackle. I think that's the expectation. And he's a guy that's actually seen his recruitment kind of take a little uptick this spring, right? He's gotten an offer from Colorado, UF, UCF, Louisville. So a guy that a lot of other schools are interested in, have continued to offer over the past few weeks. yeah, his recruitment's seen a few more schools enter the mix. So yeah, I think these two guys are going to be interesting to monitor over the next year, kind of how their bodies shape up. Jamari Flag, especially, just kind of seeing what position he'll eventually mold himself into at the college level. But yeah, I think these are two guys that I would expect to end up in FSU's class as of right now. I don't, obviously things could change, but I think FSU wants these guys.
Hey, you like them both, and you got to trust the evals, right?
Yeah.
You agree with that, Adam?
Yeah, I do. Mashburn, I wonder if that's a situation where you see where you're at the end of the class, and kind of figure it out. You never know. How's he develop over his senior year? You're not going to be sure. Flag the same way. You take these guys early, they've got potential and upside to their games. I mean, Mashburn's an extremely productive defensive tackle that's a local prospect.
Right.
People have been throwing their hands up in the air for years now why we can't land guys that are local vicinity. I mean, here's a very talented player and has been very productive in the area. So that's a young man that makes sense. And Flag is really explosive, like gets off the ball. Can he do that? Maybe he's listed at 235. What if he plays at 265 this year? You get a look at him at 265 and suddenly he's still as explosive. Well, yeah, darn right you're taking him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you kind of see where these guys go over the course of the year, and you never know.
Yeah, and I've always been the outside of that first like COVID transition class, those guys, those like intriguing dudes that Norvell seems to offer. There's always like the Jaden Jones or the Quindarius, like both of the Jones kids from this last class. Mm-hmm. Those are intriguing guys, man, with like very like tantalizing upside. They do their homework so much on the evals that far be it from me to say anything, and especially after hearing what you guys think about them, I feel the same way. So, like I said, awesome nucleus of the class, almost halfway done already in January. Huge upside talent, really solid middle, and then some guys with some intriguing prospects and a kicker. So I want to talk about, I think we're going to go position by position, just names for the fans to know after this. I want to talk about first, Zach, who are like the show stealer guys? Who are the big uncommitted names that should be at the top of Florida State fans' minds, any position? The guys that you're thinking of that when Florida State makes movement with them, when they visit, when they give a quote about FSU, these are the guys in your own personal queue. I'm writing the story on him first, and that's getting top priority on the page. Could be any position. We'll go through position by position later to help people sort it. But just who's that big group of like the huge high priority guys that Florida State fans really need to acquaint themselves with?
Yeah, so I'll start off with, I think, the most obvious name, the most, popular name, I would say, within FSU recruiting circles right now. And I think that's 5-star defensive back Charles Lester out of Riverview, Florida, down there near Bradenton. He's a guy that FSU's been targeting for, well over a year now. A guy that they absolutely have wanted since the start. They were one of the first schools to enter his recruitment, and they've stayed around. And I think, as of right now, they probably lead for his services. So,
ooh, that's big.
He's a guy that is, probably their top target, regardless of position. I would think. I think he's probably the highest ranked guy. But that's, they have a realistic shot with as of right now. And he's really talented. I got a chance to watch him at Battle Miami, and man, like, he's not all the way there, like technically, but his speed is legit. His long speed and just the way he's able to be sticky in coverage is really impressive. He was a guy that I definitely had an eye on. Right, you want to see a guy that's rated that high. Is he worth that ranking? And to me, he definitely was. So he's number one. I think as you move kind of down the positions, quarterback, they're good. We'll move down the positions later, but I think the top running back name to know is Jordan Lyle, St. Thomas Aquinas prospect, well built, 6 foot, 190 pounds, I believe. And he's a guy that's seen his recruitment skyrocket this spring. Alabama just offered this past week. Tennessee came calling, Oklahoma, a few other schools. So yeah, definitely a guy that FSU fans should know. Obviously, you already got Cam Davis in the boat, but FSU wants to add another one in the 2024 class. And I think if there's any name to know for that position, it's Jordan Lyle. So I'll give a few more. Tawaski Abrams, he's a receiver out of Dunbar High School. I think Florida State sits in a great spot there. And I wouldn't be surprised if he made a decision, and if it were FSU soon. So he's a guy that I really think FSU sits in a great spot with. And he's a speedster, man. He ran 10.62 in the 100-meter dash. I mean, that's legit speed. He's a guy that, if you watch his film, it's electric. So he's a guy to know for sure. Moving over to the defensive line, this might surprise some people, but a guy that FSU absolutely values that may be a little underrated right now, LJ McCray, at a mainland high school. He is a big, framed defensive lineman. I think some people view him as a DN, but I think he'll eventually be a D tackle at the next level. But man, he's impressive if you turn on the tape, and FSU has valued him. I think they were his first offer last year, and they've made him a priority since then. Got him on campus for a game this past season, and then he was over at the junior day on Saturday. So definitely a dude that they absolutely want in this class, and a guy that, every time he steps on campus, like you said, Trey, this is a guy we'll be writing about. And then I guess for the final name, offensive lineman that they absolutely value, Jonathan Daniels. He's a semi-local kid out of the Pensacola area, 4-star prospect. I don't think FSU is going to go heavy at the high school ranks in 2024, just because I think overall it's viewed as kind of a down year along the offensive line, according to some people I speak to across the landscape of recruiting. And I think Jonathan Daniels is a guy that FSU absolutely values at that position within this class, and it's a guy they want to add. So he's a name to note.
Is he a tackle or a guard?
I think he's listed as a tackle. I don't know where he'd play at the next level. I honestly haven't gotten into his film too much, candidly, but I think he's being recruited as a tackle at last check. Is that 4 or 5 guys that I named?
That was about 5-ish. Yeah, that was perfect. But that's like those are the ones. Those are the ones that when you see like extremely talented, that McCray kid, that's funny because I think he's only a 3-star right now. Yeah, exactly. And he was bulldozing people last year at the camp, right? Yeah. At the showcase.
He was the top performer. I think Andrew Ivins was out there. Now he's the director of scouting for 24/7 Sports. He was over at the Battle Miami. But he was at the Seminole Showcase this past year, and LJ McCray was the top performer. And Keldrick Falk, Lucas Simmons were other guys at that camp that were working out. So that's a pretty impressive accolade for LJ.
Yeah, especially at his age, man. That recruitment's going to blow up. But as far as those names that Zach listed, Adam, which one stands out to you? I mean, obviously Lester. The Abrams thing is interesting because in his most recent interview, he said he was going to take the decision a little bit later, take some visit. It looks like the Donk and the boys maybe turned up the heat on that a little bit, which I think is impressive. Good for them.
Donk and the boys.
Donk and the boys donking around. Very impressive stuff. I like to hear that.
Lester's a stud. He's a little lean. I'd like to see him bulk up a little bit more.
You would,
yeah. He gets on the college campus.
I want him to look like an offensive lineman.
Yeah, shave his head, get some more LBs on. Yeah.
Abrams is a really good wide receiver. He's really fast, like Fryer. They clearly want to get faster in that room. It seems like a priority. McCray looks like your classic. I'm going to blow up into a 3-tech and be a monster. He looks the part. That would be a really.
You like him, don't you, big guy?
Yeah, he gets the flowing. I mean, all those guys are really good. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we kind of started this conversation like they've leveled up with the guys they're recruiting. It's like not going to say a lot of bad stuff about the dudes we're talking about right now.
No, not at all. All right, so let's go down position by position. Quarterback. I mean, Kromenhoek's the guy. We don't really expect any other no depth pieces, anything like that, right?
Yeah, I mean they've communicated some with like some other guys. Trevor Jackson's a guy. I think he's a South Florida dude or somewhere in that area. He mentioned that FSU's been in contact. I don't, at the end of the day, I don't expect FSU to add anyone besides Luke in the 2024 class.
No, I don't think so either. Running back, we obviously Cam Davis. You mentioned Jordan Lyle from STA. Anybody else that they may look at?
Yeah, that's definitely a deep board. I think they probably only want to add one more along with Cam Davis. But in the case that Cam goes elsewhere, which I don't expect, like I said earlier, you have some other options. Jason Brown is a running back from the West Coast. I think he's out of Washington, but he's the guy that FSU's kind of built some behind the scenes inroads with. Could visit in the month of March, but he's a guy that FSU likes a good deal. We'll see. Obviously, with West Coast guys, it all comes down to if they actually, make it to campus and show that reciprocal interest with a school like Florida State all the way across the country. But they've done it before with a guy like Blake Nicholson, so we'll see. But beyond that, Mekhi Danzy is a Florida High prospect. So, if FSU wants to go local, there's a running back right in their backyard who's a 4-star, top 247 level prospect that's being recruited by, some of the top schools in the country. And he's a talented guy in his own right. And, he's an interesting prospect, right? Because he's a little longer than maybe you'd expect for a typical running back prospect, but he reminds me a lot of Lawrence Toafili in high school. The way he's used, they throw a lot of the balls out of the backfield to him in that Florida High offense. And he's an impressive dude, a legit track athlete as well. So he's a guy that impresses, both on the football field and in track and field and sprinting events. So he's another guy. Beyond those guys, Isaac Brown, I believe he's coming to Louisville. He's a South Florida guy, a little bit undersized, but really explosive. FSU has shown some interest. And then some plan B types I would characterize are Gerald Modest, another South Florida guy, and then Arquise Parks out of Tampa Wharton High School. So a few other names to know, but the main priority, I checked on this within the last few weeks, is definitely St. Thomas's Jordan Love. I love that.
Whose film was that? Whose film was that, Adam?
That's Mekhi Danzy.
It's okay for you guys that aren't watching. They just did the high five running side by side for the touchdown. That's pretty solid stuff.
How many are they looking to take here? Two?
I think
two total, right?
Yeah, and they obviously already have one committed that is obviously one of the top dudes in the country in Cam Davis. So
could there be a possibility like of three if one of them's kind of like the Swiss Army knife, like a Danzy type, and then two traditional running backs?
That's why I asked.
Definitely. I think if they want Danzy, if he's a take, I think obviously they're going to add talent to their roster. So I would expect that they would take maybe up to three if it was the right guy, but I don't think they're going to go reaching for a third guy. It's got to be someone as talented as maybe Danzy. I'm not saying that he would be the guy that they would add three to the class, but he's the type of caliber of player that you'd want if you add plus numbers. I mean, that room's already kind of loaded.
The weird part about it is Cam Davis is your stud, but he's also a guy that could easily be your Swiss Army knife because he catches the ball so well out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Like you could line him up in the slot, which they like to do a lot of. They like to put Lawrence Toafili out in the slot. You could do that with him and get away with it. So that may keep a Mekhi Danzy out of your class if you were to, if you prioritize like a Jordan Lyle a little bit more, who I think is a better player. He would be the player that I would go after. I think he's a nice compliment to Cam Davis. So it'd be interesting to see how that works out.
Nice big board though, dude. A lot of options, a lot of plan Bs, kind of plan As, things like it looks like the offensive line boards have looked in the past, just very strategically planned out. Wide receiver, we talked about TJ, Tawaski Abrams, any other guys? I mean, how many are they looking to take this year, Zach? Who are some other names?
I think, obviously you already have one committed in Fryer.
That's correct.
Fryer.
Yep.
Besides him, I would expect them to take about three more.
Okay.
Feel good about where they stand with Tawaski Abrams. Besides him, this is another deep board. JoJo Trader out of South Florida. He's a guy that just got Cristobal to Miami. I don't expect that recruitment to end anytime soon based on my conversations with him and people surrounding him this past weekend. He said, I'm like, who's your top schools? Like he named the top five. I believe it's FSU, Miami, Florida, Ohio State, and Tennessee. And he said that Ohio State, Miami, and Florida State made up his top three of those schools. He's like, yeah, that's going to change a bunch.
Hey, dude, that's very South Florida. At least he's like, hey, man. Good for him, man.
Yeah, we'll see. I think FSU's definitely has some staying power there. But we'll see. They got to get him on campus. He's not a guy that that's going to schedule a bunch of visits. He's a guy that's just going to show up on campuses, is the way it's been described to me, his recruitment. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to follow for sure. It looks like a typical South Florida recruitment like Trey. Aside from him, a guy that I want them to prioritize a ton is St. Thomas Aquinas wideout Chance Robinson. He's a guy that impressed me so much. Dane and I a ton at Battle Miami. Just physically stands out, and then his ability to move with all that size is just impressive. And he's a guy that I know FSU values and wants, but it seems like the entire SEC is targeting him now. I believe Alabama came in offering the other day. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
We ain't scared.
No. Big dogs now.
Gotta eat, baby. Big dogs got to eat.
He's a dude, and is a guy that I think FSU should absolutely try and get in this class. Another guy at his same school, James Madison. I think FSU might even have a better shot with James Madison than Chance Robinson at the very moment. I think they've built some good early momentum in that recruitment. I know they're working to get him back on campus within the month of March, most likely. I think we'll see a lot of visits happen that month, just because obviously January is a little bit tough with only a few weeks open. March will be completely open. They'll have spring practices that guys can come to almost every day. So yeah, James Madison's a 6'3", bigger frame guy, more lean and slender than Chance, but very talented in his own right. Besides those two guys, BJ Gibson just recently decommitted from Tennessee, but not for football, from baseball. But he's a major FSU target at the receiver position. He's out of, I think, Wilcox County, Georgia. Yeah, we need the audio. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I need to feel the experience, Adam.
Got the cheerleading going on. Mazeo Bennett, he's out of South Carolina. I think currently favoring South Carolina, but he'll be on campus this weekend. A 4-star prospect, really talented guy that Dana and I saw at Battle Miami as well. Another guy we saw, Lewayne McCoy at a Miami Central.
Oh my God, this is a huge board. Yeah. There's so many people.
Yeah, I know, and like a lot of these guys we just added from talking to them at Battle Miami. We're like, yeah, we talk to Dugans every day. So Ron Dugans, I'm talking to the receiver coach, and yeah, Lewayne McCoy is a two-way guy for Miami Central, defensive back and receiver, but FSU likes him at wide out, and he says he's in Florida State's the school that reaches out the most. That's Ron Dugans, Guy Lemonier, who's an assistant receiver coach, and Mike Norvell. A few other guys I'll just say in passing. Cameron Coleman, 6'3", wideout out of Alabama. FSU's been in contact with him, trying to get him on campus in March. Zy Carl Lewis, a slot wideout out of I believe like Central Florida, maybe like Tampa area. I forgot I think Carrollwood Day is where he's at. Zy Carl Lewis, he says FSU is among the top 3 schools that are reaching out the most. I believe Tennessee and Penn State were the other 2. And then Terrence Moore is a guy that's super stock up. A lot of schools that have come in the mix recently for him. I think Oklahoma, I think even Alabama, Clemson, Georgia have offered recently. He's a Tampa 6'3" wideout and is really impressive. So yeah, huge board, even bigger than the receiver one, and credit to Ron Dugans for having such a lengthy board in the 2024 classes. They look to add probably around 3 more guys.
Love it, dude. Donk's got new spark plugs, man. The energy is absolutely palpable. He had a tune-up, and he's all over the place. That is crazy. And if you're going to swipe skill players, I can't think of many better places than St. Thomas Aquinas. Take the running backs, the receivers, take all of it, man. I love the names of the schools they're recruiting now. I love the competition they're recruiting against, especially for the skills. You start talking about Clemson, Alabama offers, Ohio State, stuff like that. Primo stuff, man. I can't wait to see how that board shapes up, especially with us taking 4. Tight end, the Georgia commit, 5-star Landon Thomas was on campus, which
surprise visit.
Gonna be tough to beat out Georgia for an all-world tight end. I know Adam is not terrified. But he has some good stuff to say, man. He had some good stuff to say about Florida State. Any other names that we should know for tight end? Are they looking to take multiple, one? What do we think?
I think probably one. I mean, you already got 7 scholarship tight ends on the roster.
Yeah, still quite a few. Yeah.
Hey, let's just keep adding them, right? Isn't that the Newberg thing to say?
The bane of Josh's existence. Yes.
Yeah, so let's add a few more. Now, I think there's 3 names to note in my book for FSU's tight end board as of right now. That it can still expand. I think they're working on looking for some more targets. But Landon Thomas, like you said, obviously the top guy. How realistic is that? We'll see. I think AB's confident that FSU can go ahead and beat Georgia for every recruit. I hope so too, AB, but we'll see. It was good. It was a good sign that they can get him on campus. It's the first time I think since he decommitted from FSU back in the day. He made that flip, obviously, I believe, a little under a year ago. But yeah, he's an absolute dude, number one tight end in the country, a guy FSU would absolutely love to add. But behind him, Kylan Fox, he was on campus actually a few days ago on Sunday, and he's a guy that likes Florida State a lot. Was there for a game this past season, and then made it back for not the junior day but the day after, so got some more personalized time with the staff. I think it was the day after he visited UF, so kind of making his way back up. I believe he goes to Grayson High School, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, he's a tight end prospect, a little more lean than a guy like Landon, who's a little more filled out, but a guy that FSU definitely values. And then besides those two guys, Hubert Caliste out of the Louisiana area, a little bit of an intriguing prospect. I know Florida State likes him a good bit. He's actually been crystal balled to Florida State by the 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. Has that crystal ball from Florida State's first junior day a few weeks ago when he was on campus. So, yeah, I think they would take any of those three guys as of right now, based on the latest intel. So definitely an interesting board. We'll see if it expands or subtracts. We'll see. I think one is the name, or one is the number that you would look to add in that room, because you can't. 7's already stretching it for scholarship tight ends. We know Mike Norvell likes to use them a lot, but that's a huge number allocation to the tight end room, in my opinion.
Adam, you think Caliste is a little undervalued as of right now?
I do very much so.
Let's go.
Soft hands, runs really well. You see he can flex him out. He plays kind of some inline too. Kylan Fox, I want to see him doing it more. Obviously extremely impressive physically, just kind of getting off the bus, but I want to see him play the position. Looks to me more like a big wide receiver at this point, which is clearly intriguing. I almost wonder, like Zach's talking about taking one tight end. Do you take
the highest upside one? Like, wait, what do? Do you take the sure thing since you're only taking one? You got 900 others in the locker room. Maybe you do take the guy with the intriguing upside, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll be curious to see which player they value the most. They like this 3-back. Do they get called, kind of recruited as its own thing moving forward? We'll see. I like this young man's game quite a bit. Kylan Fox is really impressive. This is what you get into when you start recruiting these caliber players. Though
what a catch for our non YouTube people. Oh, you gotta get on the YouTube. You gotta get on the YouTube with the OV with Zach Blostein.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this work out. You want to talk about leveling up. Here's a position that has been under a lot of fire, and the position coach over the last year or two of recruiting at that position. Kylan Fox is a freak athlete. This young man clearly has some skill and some game to him. And then he who shall not be named, because we're going to beat out Georgia for him in the long run. And I'm saying we because I'm putting my fan hat on right now.
That's right, buddy. Look, Adam is objectivity out the window. I love it. I love it. And Adam predicting a glow-up season for Chris Thompson, right? That's the next Coach Redemption Tour. It's a good board. Offensive line, like you said, we already talked about Jonathan Daniels. Inside offensive lineman Jason Zandamela from, I think, that Clearwater Academy that Lucas Simmons was at. It's not a huge board. Florida State has done so well under Alex Atkins with this position. I'm not really super worried about it. Besides Daniels, Zandamela, anybody else really to talk about? Or, we're going to put a premium, I think, numbers-wise, at least on some other positions this cycle, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. I think they add, maybe 2-3 guys. I think 3 is a fair number. I don't think they want to absolutely load up in this class because, I don't think Alex Atkins is or FSU in general are huge fans of, just the options and the realistic options within this cycle at offensive line, like I said. But yeah, Jason Zandamela out of Clearwater Academy International, definitely a guy to note. Jimothy Lewis is a big frame guy that FSU was in on early. Got him on campus last year in for a game. He's a guy out of IMG Academy that's definitely a talented prospect. I think the number one interior offensive lineman in the top 247 rankings right now for 2024. So a guy that they absolutely value, or have gotten on campus multiple times, and they'll look to get on campus again in the spring. Behind those guys, I think you're moving into some more plan B types. Ty Hilton is a guy they offered this past weekend from Oviedo, Florida. And then Jake Garnera and Barry Walker are more like interior types that have gotten on campus before. Walt Claire Flynn is also in that boat. I think he's projected more as a center. He's a really talented center prospect. But Jason Zandamela also fills that role. So yeah, we'll see. I think the offensive line board has a chance to grow a lot over the next couple of months as we look and see. Alex Atkins has continued to offer guys that are highly ranked in this class. Yeah, no baby Gronk.
No, this is not a baby Gronk. This is not a baby Gronk outfit. I don't deal with this. Is not a meme cast. This is a serious journalistic endeavor.
Yeah,
there will be no baby Gronk talk at this time.
But yeah, like I was saying, I think the offensive line board could expand over the next couple of months as Alex Atkins continues to offer guys and get guys on campus. Not worried about him and his recruiting ability. Maybe they go portal, right? If they don't like a ton of guys, we've seen that obviously work for Florida State a ton at that position, right? I mean, you got 3 guys this past season that played a ton in Dilla Gibbons, Dimitri Emanuel, and Justin Turntine. And then you brought in an excellent offensive line class this offseason with Keandre Jones, Jeremiah Byers, and Casey Roddick. So definitely going to be an interesting board to watch over the next couple of months as FSU looks to maybe expand it a little bit more.
I don't think they'll reach either with how they've recruited. Like they got those guys, the guys that are waiting in the wings, the Quayshawn Sapps, the Jalen Earlys, things like that. That room is stocked. It was a multi-year plan to get it to where it is, but they're not going to reach. And if they do offer a guy who's a little bit funky, I think that it's the same way with some of their other takes in this class right now. There's obviously some sort of intriguing prospect, some sort of intriguing attribute about the kid that they value highly. Defensive line, we already talked about McCray. Edge rusher types, we've been hitting very well in the portal, Zach. I mean, who are we looking at? I mean, maybe the luck will run out. Maybe it never will. I don't know. Who are just a couple names to know on the defensive line?
Yeah, so edge, I think the top name to know is Booker Pickett. He's a really talented prospect out of the Tampa area. And yeah, he's a guy that FSU's valued from the very beginning. Adam Fuller's kind of been the spearhead of that recruitment. They got to get him on campus. He's a really high priority for a bunch of teams across the country, especially the Southeast. Miami got him on campus this past weekend. FSU definitely needs to try and get him on campus as soon as possible because he's definitely the top guy. Behind him, I would definitely point to Dylan Stevenson. He's a top 247 top 247 composite guy. He is an impressive guy, 6'4", I believe. And yeah, he's an edge rusher type, a guy that they've recruited for well over a year now. And they got him on campus this past weekend. He had really positive things to say. Don't think his recruitment is quite, close to done yet. I think he'll take definitely some more visits. But I think FSU has some staying power there if they want to continue to recruit him throughout. And yeah, I think he's a talented guy that they're in on. Besides those 2 guys, I mean, it's a little bit difficult to say at edge just because they haven't gotten a ton of those types on campus so far.
Right.
But yeah, a few names I'll note that I know they've offered and have gotten on campus previously. Jeremiah Beeman is a defensive lineman out of Alabama. Don't know if we want to go back there after last cycle. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think they're going to, put all their eggs in that basket. I hope not. But Jeremiah Marcelin is a South Florida guy. Dinelson Exum, I think that's how you pronounce it. Both guys in South Florida that FSU's offered. We'll see. I think that's another position as they, evaluate tape. the rest of this month into February, and then kind of fill out their board in March and beyond. I think we'll see that position board kind of expand a little bit as they see, you know, which guys have reciprocal interest in FSU. It's not too expensive right now, I would say.
Still kind of like if there is a little bit of a black cloud hanging over, there's a couple of high school positions where, I mean, they're killing it in the portal. And I'm not one to believe that portal recruiting is not recruiting. It's different recruiting, but I struggle hardly to believe that you're such a good portal recruiter, and that means it has no like weight on how you do in high school. The difference between the high school and the transfer portal recruiting at defensive end, I think that's a narrative that the Greek freak would just like Mr. Papuchis would like to just put away and lock up forever. Any other defensive linemen of note on the interior before we move to linebackers, which I think is very interesting because that is a mysterious group and mysterious board. And actually one of the positions where we could talk about a kid from the 2023 cycle, which is interesting.
Do we have to?
We do not have to if you do not want to, because that one's I still don't really get it, to be honest with you. However, just name a couple interior guys if there are any besides the ones that you mentioned on the defensive line.
Yeah, I would definitely say the interior board's a little more expansive. Camarion Franklin out of Mississippi is definitely the top overall target. You know, I don't know how realistic that is. I think he's going to be a guy that pretty much every SEC school wants. Just an absolute monster. I think he's probably a 5-star, and he's a dude. Besides him, I think these guys, you start getting to more of a realistic shot. Omar White out of Valdosta, committed to Colorado at the time. I don't think many people expect him to end up there. Basically there's a tie. Former Georgia off-field recruiter is now the defensive line coach, Nick Williams at Colorado.
Gotcha.
And I believe that they're pretty close. So I think that's what led to an early commitment. You know, he's going to start or continue to be recruited. Obviously was on campus at FSU this past weekend for the junior day. Did not elect to talk, which was interesting, right? You don't see a lot of, 2024 guys already not talking to media.
Who turns you down, Zach? You're the juice.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Oh, that's right. Okay, never mind. Well, now we know why. Yeah.
The old heads out
Grumpy
there.
Chris.
Brendan probably like offered him a tic tac and wanted to talk to him about like road rules or something, and just freaked the hell out of the kid. And he was like, "I got to get out of here."
Yeah, remember these old FSU players? They remind me of you. No,
I gotta go, man. No comment.
DeAndre Robinson, a guy out of Orlando that FSU absolutely values a ton along the interior of the defensive line. He's a guy that's being recruited by a ton of schools. Texas hosted him last weekend. He's going out to Colorado this weekend. They're supposed to host a crazy, talented junior day.
Buff madness. Buff Bagwell.
Trying to create some noise. Xavier Porter out of the Tampa area. Adam Fuller spearheaded recruitment. A guy that FSU's been on for a while. That's been really high on FSU as well. The guy we raved about before, I'm putting him at D tackle. He might be a DN right now, but LJ McCray, I'm having him on that board. And then Champ Thompson's another one to note.
Didn't David Stone say he was going to be coming to visit at some point? 5-star defensive tackle out of IMG.
Good eye.
He hasn't been on campus yet. I know it's one of those deals.
If he did, then maybe I missed it. But yeah, I mean, if FSU can get in that recruitment, he's the number 4 overall player in the country. I think that would be a crazy deal. But yeah, if FSU could get involved there, that'd be awesome.
Adam, book him in the class, right?
Yeah,
I think looking at these boards, I just kind of scrolling through like kind of what the defensive, just the 24/7 overall rankings for positional rankings for defensive tackle and defensive end. I think looking at these things, they clearly must feel like McCray is going to be an edge for them, based on what bodies they're involved with at D tackle, already having 2 committed, and what they've got, what they're involved with at D end, and what's available kind of in the Southeast. It looks kind of thin, just based on the rankings, and it's really early. The end position looks kind of thin as far as prospects go in the Southeast. It would make some sense that maybe McCray is going to be an end for them in the long run.
We'll get clarification over that in a couple of weeks. It honestly kind of feels that way too, just based on how many of those type of guys they've gotten on campus. Not a ton, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, they've had 2 open, weeks or
Right,
weekends.
yeah.
They've been on the road during the week, so they're not hosting guys during the week. You'll see a lot of more in-week recruiting in March when they can't be on the road and they're just worrying about spring practices. So I think March is going to have a total number of visitors going to be way higher than January. Obviously, the whole month will be open for visits. Yeah, so I think that's where you'll kind of see the boards kind of take shape even more so than in January.
Well, cool. Maybe we'll get some linebackers on campus. That'd be fun because nobody knows what's happening with that one. They are still recruiting a 2023 kid.
Yeah.
Zach, I'll table you. What's that kid's name, by the way? Again, the North Texas commit is Dylan
Brown Turner.
Dylan Brown Turner. I'm gonna put a pin in you. I'm gonna put a pin in you for a second, Zach. Have you looked at his game, Adam?
Yeah. He's.
What do you think?
He looks a lot like the prospect that they were recruiting out of Virginia before early signing day. His name is escaping.
The kid who stayed with Virginia.
Yes,
Cameron Robinson.
He looks like a little bit less athletic version of him. Instinctive, kind of understands what he's doing in the box. Kind of comes downhill, plays forward. Not the greatest athlete. Size is okay. Yeah, I don't know.
What do you think? You like to take, big guy?
No, not at all.
Okay, Zach, what do you think?
Yeah. I think the issue I have here, I mean, I don't know too much about the kid, but I think if you look at his measurables, right, 6'1", 200 pounds, how much more room does he have to grow other than putting on some weight? I think if you're going to take a late ad like this, why not go and get a guy that has some athletic upside, maybe is not filled out all the way. We see a lot of those guys that develop on the next level or even beyond that turn into dudes. So I don't know. I feel like you kind of know what you're getting in a guy like this. And it just doesn't make sense to me why they need to add one, right? They can go ahead and try to do that in 2024 or go portal hunting after the season. Or maybe even in the spring, in the spring portal window, if you desperately want a linebacker.
Maybe get a younger guy with some higher upside from another program.
Isn't that what portal for, right? We've eliminated at every other position taking last minute high school ads that you think are high upside guys that you project in the future. I mean, we saw Mike Norvell do that in his first year because the portal wasn't really fully in effect, and then you see him adapt the following years, and they go and add like Tatum Bethune, that linebacker room's completely changed. I'm not saying you're going to add a quality or a guy of that quality in the portal, a guy that's probably not going to start, but why not go and add a youngster that you think already been in the college program for a year? No hate on the kid, right?
No.
Got to take him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm definitely questioning if FSU does, and we're projecting a little bit, right? The kid's still committed to North Texas. He hasn't made a flip to Florida State,
right? And it's not. I think the kid is underrated a little bit too. Yeah. But I kind of agree with the methodology of it, Zach. It's if you're gonna take a shot on a kid, especially now with the transfer portal, that if you do, and maybe their mindset is like, hey, if it doesn't work out, we've always got the transfer portal. I'm almost of the other way. If you have a room that's solidified with enough guys, take the shot on the kid that maybe has a higher variability in the floor and the ceiling, because it doesn't matter anyway, because you got the transfer portal to kind of cover up your mistake if you screw up. So it's maybe the conservative way to look at the transfer portal being able to cover up something. Yeah, I just I don't know. I'm with you. Like I said, no hate on the kid. I do think he's personally a little bit underrated. We'll see what happens with that whole saga. But it's just, I think the methodology behind it just looks totally different than every other position right now. So maybe that's why it sticks out. And any other kids, and moving on from that, 2024, any names to know? Because I don't know that there are.
Yeah, I mean, they had a kid in this past Friday, Edwin Spillman.
That seems like a Tennessee thing all the way, though, right?
I think he's going to Tennessee. I was about to say. Honestly, I have a document going and trying to build out the boards so I can start sharing that with FSU fans in the month of February when things are kind of slowed down with the dead period. And that's the one position where I'm struggling to find names. Kalaj Cobbins is a guy out of Louisiana that I don't think has ever visited, but is a guy that's mentioned FSU before in interviews. Honestly, you're
scouring. Look at you, man.
Instant Shavers is a guy out of the Miami area that FSU's been linked to in the past, but I don't think his recruitment's really, on the uptick. He's, says he's communicating with FSU, Florida, UCF, some of the in-state schools. I don't know how valid that is. I think the kid is pretty talented, but he's a little undersized, so we'll see. It's really intriguing why if you look at almost every other board, they're all filled out, and then you have the linebacker, and we're barely struggling to find one name. Like, what are we doing?
It's the only position that feels exactly like last year, where it's like, what's going on here? Classically, Randy is very strict about what he likes, and he doesn't like a lot, apparently. So we'll see how that plays out.
We will see how that plays out. Another fun, interesting one to look at.
Play out with a lot of yelling.
We'll see. Obviously, maybe we'll just take one of Georgia's commits. That's what we're doing at every other position. Let's talk about a board that is more developed. Ton of guys that we've already spoken about. That's defensive back. Zach, let's end the show with a high note, with a buying, and let's talk about some of the guys we've already talked about. Charles Lester, C.J. Hurd, a commitment. Jordan Pride, a commitment. Who are some other DBs that FSU's in on? They got a DB coach now, and I can tell you, it seems like the initial results seem very positive. People like Patty S., and I'm happy about it. Fins up again, like I said.
Let's go. Fins up. That's my team. I think the Surtain hire's been good so far. I guess we'll see. Like, we got to see results, right? Like, that'll come in time.
They'll come. Fins up.
You'd hope. Yeah. But Charles Lester, top dude at the position. That's realistic for Florida State. The one name I want to note that's probably ranked higher than him at the moment is, I believe he's the number one safety in the country, KJ Bolden, out of the state of Georgia. We talked to him over the weekend. Don't think FSU's in the top group or anything like that, but he's texted with Coach Surtain. That he's gotten in contact with Surtain over the past week or so, just over text, and I think they got on a FaceTime call. So we'll see. He said, I asked him, like, are you like going to visit FSU? Like, I pretty much asked like these questions pretty bluntly, just to see if they actually have interest. He said, yeah, definitely, I'll visit. So
okay, good. Yeah, come to Big Papa Brown, bring them all.
Get your head shaved by Coach AB. So we'll see. I don't think FSU is gonna make a play there, but hey, FSU is a dream school growing up, so you never know. Ricardo Jones, safety prospect.
Another talented guy. Florida State's in on.
Top 100 kid. And if you were over on Noles247.com today, he will be on campus this weekend at FSU. A guy that just got in contact, I believe, with Coach Surtain. At the time when we talked, the day I spoke to him at Battle Miami, he had not been in contact, but got in contact. Adam Fuller went to see him this week. He sets up the visit this weekend. So a guy that FSU is definitely trying to make a move with early on this cycle. That safety board is deep. We'll get into some other names in a second. Jordan Johnson-Rubles, kind of a nickel/safety type. We talked to him as well. He wasn't actually competing at Battle Miami, but he was there supporting some friends. He's over at IMG Academy, originally from the state of Texas, I believe. He has a decent amount of interest in FSU. I'd expect to see him on campus in March. Travaris Banks has already visited FSU, but it was actually a few days before Pat Surtain was officially hired, so didn't get a chance to meet him. But he told me over DM within the past few days that he's already scheduling or trying to schedule a visit to go meet Surtain in person over the next couple of months. So moving past those guys, Brandon Jacobs is another safety prospect out of Orlando that FSU likes a good amount. And I think an interesting thing, a few notes on DB recruiting this year. I think they're going to go cornerback heavy. They've added a lot of safeties via the high school ranks over the past, especially this past year, but in the past couple of years. And, I think, if there's any portal or remaining portal needs this cycle, it's going to be safety. That's going to be the top priority. So, I could see them maybe adding another safety to their roster in April or May, whenever the next portal window opens, that 15-day window. But in the high school ranks, I would expect them to go cornerback heavy. And I think Surtain is going to be, obviously he's going to have a huge say on who they target, especially at corner, but overall in the defensive back room. I think we could see that board shake up a little bit just based on who he likes on film as he sits down and watches all these guys, over this past week and then moving forward. I think that's a large part of what he's doing right now on the job and on the first week of his job. So moving into a few other names, Tavoy Fegan, Clemson commit. He's kind of had a
Will he come to campus? Won't he come to campus? Do your report. He's coming to campus.
Storied recruitment to Florida State so far. Visited FSU, then like immediately committed to Clemson, and then said he was coming to campus, and then didn't make it, and then said he was coming again, and then didn't make it. So we'll see. I don't think that's recruitment that FSU fans should hang their hat on. But I asked him just straight up, like not even on an interview. I'm like, yo, are you still interested in FSU? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you think you're gonna visit? He's like, I'm definitely gonna visit, but if I don't visit unofficially, I'll definitely visit officially. So who knows?
You should have asked that question to the flapjack kid with the Amish name, like Zachariah or whatever his name is. You should ask him that. Yeah.
That was a crazy recruitment. We don't even talk about that. That was like a 1 week ordeal. But
what was going on, dude? Oh, the Clemson kids.
I think he wasn't trolling the Clemson commits because they have that rule where they can't take visits and stuff.
Listen, man, when you're committed to God's NIL, that is tough to get out of. So I mean, we just got to do what we got to do, right? That's a tough NIL to break bread with.
Yeah, Dabo don't play about his guys. So. But yeah, moving past that one, Ashton Hampton, another local guy at Florida High.
Hampton, interesting.
All these dudes are safeties.
Yeah, his dad is Alonzo Hampton, that FSU fans might know. That was an interesting coaching job. But hey, he has a head coaching job, I believe, at I forget which school it is, but he just recently got a head coaching job. So that was cool for him. I believe his alma mater. So awesome for him. His son is a talented safety prospect at Florida High, and he has really racked up some nice offers recently. Clemson and Oklahoma have gotten into the mix over the past few weeks. FSU got him on campus this past weekend, or might have been this past weekend or the weekend before. It's kind of I wasn't obviously there. I was at Battle, so not fully aware of who was all there. But I think Ashton Hampton was there, and he's a guy that FSU. I believe values a lot. We'll see, right? Like I think a lot of these names are kind of to be determined as to what the priority will be on FSU side. But I think they like him. They obviously brought him on a visit recently. He's a guy that's frame really stands out. I was at Florida High like a few years ago. Just kind of looking at another prospect, Trey Donaldson, who ended up at Auburn at the time. And Ashton Hampton was there, and I made note of it. Like this guy's got a good frame. Wasn't all the way filled out like he is now, but he looked impressive back then. And I'm not surprised that he ended up being a top Power 5 level recruit. So definitely good to see for him, a local guy that if FSU wants to start winning locally, that could be a guy that they turn to as a safety prospect for this class. Yep.
I was going to say more. Is there still more?
Jarvis Boatwright.
Oh man, keep going, brother. You're on a roll, dog. Yeah, keep going.
This board is stupid, but it's crazy because you say they're going to go corner heavy. All these dudes are safeties.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, right? They're going to try to expand the board. Hey, Charles Lester's not a safety.
Moly.
We got Charles Lester. Don't worry about it. And they already got 2 committed. I think Jordan Pride's a corner.
Yeah. Is he a corner? Okay.
I think
he's listed as a safety on those 20.
Yeah. I think he can play corner, but we'll see. CJ Hurd, obviously not a true corner, but maybe they have 2 safeties committed, one guy that can probably maybe play corner. So
they're keeping us on our toes, and they like a versatile backfield anyway. Yeah, they're going to look for the physical qualities. They're going to look for the style of play they want, whether they're playing safety in high school, whether they're not. They are. I think a lot of these guys, to Zach's point, will be transitioned into cornerbacks because the roster needs cornerbacks, right, Zach? Yeah. So don't get too hung up on what they're playing right now. Look for, and March is going to tell us a lot anyway. Like I said, the point of this episode for you guys is to give you all these names to know. Just to give you a pulse on what's going on with 2024. The months ahead are going to kind of whittle them down to get what they need. But Zach's point's still going to stand, right? We're going to need cornerbacks. And you got Pat Surtain, fins up. I mean, he'll get his share of guys. I ain't worried about it. Yeah. Fins up again.
few more names I want to know. A few more safeties.
Go ahead.
Just to annoy AB. Jalous Solomon.
I love it.
Yeah, Jalous Solomon. FSU actually saw him today. He's a guy that I think is moving up FSU's priority list right now. They've watched his film from this past season. We got to see him in person today. I think he's a guy that we could see become a huge priority for FSU moving forward. Obviously, these boards are fickle. Things can change. But he's a guy that we have heard recently as a stock up guy on FSU side that they might be prioritizing. Dang, it's hard to get these words out right now.
Good. You've only said 1 million words this year.
Yeah.
Fine, dude. This is a lot of names. You're doing fantastic, bud.
Thank you. Ricky Knight, the third. He's a really talented prospect out of South Florida, Benjamin High School. If you don't know what that school that is, Mr. Jordan Travis played his high school ball over there. So some good pipeline building. Would have liked to see a receiver from the last class make it in FSU's 2023 class, but whatever. We can make up for it with Ricky Knight, right?
Yeah, there you go, Zach. Now we're talking. Let him hang, brother. Yeah, that's right.
3-star defensive back right now. I think he's a little underrated. You could see his recruitment or his star ranking maybe increased to a 4-star. He's a guy that's really impressed a lot of schools and people in the recruiting industry. I know FSU likes him a lot. He told me that FSU is his number 1 school when I spoke to him out at Battle Miami. He visited Miami over this past weekend, like pretty much everyone there, because they kind of took advantage of all the guys being down there already. So, yeah, a guy that FSU, I think, is prioritizing a lot, and I think he's a corner, surprisingly, AB.
When do we have our event? We need battle Cairo. That's what I want. Just have all the kids taking to Cairo, Georgia. That's where everybody wants to be anyway.
Yeah. We definitely need a huge tournament up here in North Florida or like South Georgia. That'd be awesome. A few more names. Xavier Lucas, big body guy that was on campus this past weekend. We'll see. I think FSU likes him a lot. He just got an Alabama offer. So another guy he's out of Dillard High School down in South Florida. Jarvis Boatwright, like AB mentioned earlier, guy that named FSU in his top 5 and was on campus this past weekend. And Isaiah Thomas, I think he's an intriguing name out of Clearwater Academy International. 6'2" safety, was injured for I think a better portion of his junior season, but he's from Canada originally. And that's kind of what that school does. They take a lot of international prospects and then
I don't know. What part? French or good Canada?
Toronto.
Oh, okay, we're good. We got no beef with Toronto. That's good Canada. That's good Canada for me.
He's a Maple Leaf.
I saw a headline from Chris Trey, Toronto to Tallahassee. So I think that'd be a cool one. I was told by his coach that he has 6 foot. His wingspan is 6'7.5".
And he's how tall?
His film is
6'2".
Oh, so he's a pteranodon.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He's
6'7".
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know FSU's staff like this film a lot. And I think, that's just another safety name to know. I know AB is just up in arms about it, but
up in arms, get it? Because get it? Unreal.
We're gonna get all these safeties in here, AB, and we don't care what you say about it.
Yeah, dude.
You didn't mention any of these guys because I know they're going to get these.
Oh, God. Are you on Georgia's commit list or something right now?
Peyton Woodyard. I mean, come on. 6'2", 188. We could use that guy, right? I mean,
just pluck him from Kirby, right? Listen, dude, you win a couple of national championships, you start to rest on your laurels a little bit. Dogs 24/7. We're going to go grocery shopping off Kirby's commit list.
You won't expect it.
They won't expect it. Oh, that's fantastic. All right, Adam, I'm going to give the floor to you. Final thoughts on the DB, and then final thoughts on just what we're seeing in 24 right now. I can tell just from the tone and the tenor of this conversation, we're all feeling way better now than we did a year ago, right?
Yeah, that's kind of where I am at. Like, the recruiting's kind of chill again. Like, it's a ton of work. Obviously, Zach, Chris, Brendan, Dane, Brett are working their tails off covering this stuff every day and every week. Like, and you're getting all the up-to-date minute by minute who's here and who's visiting.
If you're a subscriber to Knowles 24/7, you cheap so-and-sos, yes.
Yeah, it's incredible to watch how they really have kind of. I don't know who started the phrasing "leveled up," but they really have. Like, that DB board he just listed, think about how long it is, and every one of those dudes is legit, is a legit player, height, size, height, weight, speed, profile, like guys you want playing in your program. And we haven't been able to say that in a while. So for me, it's just like a lot of fun to sit back and listen to Zach list all these dudes off. And I'm like, all right, okay, well, I really want that dude. Well, shit, I want that guy even more. Like, can they get that kid? How are they going to fit all these dudes in this class? Because I want all of them. Like, so it's just a lot of fun to listen and know that like Florida State recruiting feels like it's kind of back where it needs to be.
Feels good.
Now they're building the building blocks. They're getting the foundation set. Now they got to go build the house. Like, get it done.
Feels good, man. Feels
Really
good. Zach,
really
what about you? You feeling good, man?
Yeah. Glad to be back in town after being down in Miami for a few days with Dane. He kind of wears me out of love. He's just he gets in like these fugue states, gets really exhausted, just doesn't know how to take care of himself sometimes. No, he was great. He did a good job. But, yeah, he wears himself out a little bit. Yeah, we got to get in some like funny Dane stories on the road. Yeah, he's a funny cat. But yeah, I'm glad to be back at it. Excited to be out there this weekend for the last junior day of January. Should be some talented prospects on campus, and obviously we'll keep you guys updated on those 24/7.
Dare I say, Zachariah Flapjack Blostein, this may not be the last episode of the OV with ZB, right? I feel like we found a formula here, and the boards are massive. I feel like we're gonna have to do this again soon, just to keep on giving the people the info that they deserve.
100%. Got a lot of info to talk about every week, and I feel like this is the perfect place to kind of lay out all of our ideas and just talking points. And I'm really excited for this chance to kind of share, our insight with FSU fans.
Perfect place and the perfect audience to soak it up, guys. Thank you for episode 2 of the OV with ZB. I want to thank my boy Adam Brown and the guy with all the info, Zach Blostein. You guys are the best. We'll be back. Subscribe to the Noles 24/7 YouTube channel so you know when all of these videos are going live. Put the subscription on. Go to Noles 24/7. If you want all of this info, all the stuff we've talked about, you could have known about it already if you just would have been a subscriber. And those that do and want to listen to it twice, we thank you. So go to Noles 24/7, subscribe. And if you're listening in your car, your cube, whatever, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we love you too. Darren Swift loves us. I love you. We're going to keep on keeping on. Never stop chopping. OV with Zach Blostein, here to stay.